Whether it's a hot time in Florida or a rainy night in Georgia,
living for trouble.
It's the perfect time for the TCBCast, an unofficial Elvis fan podcast.
Oh, yes, sir. Good to see you. Go from this Black Fix bring you the hottest thing in the country, real hot and blue, coming to WHBQ in Memphis, Tennessee.
With your hosts, Justin Gosman and Gurdip Ladar. The TCBcast is on the air.
Welcome to TCBcast, an unofficial Elvis Presley fan podcast. I'm Justin Gosman.
I'm Gurdip Ladar.
And I'm Beck Wiles.
Welcome. Howdy, howdy. This is a...
Hello.
When's the last time the three of us got together on our own?
I checked. It said July 2024.
No way. Really?
Yeah.
Been a while. Long time.
What did we do on that episode?
That I don't remember. We did something. I don't know what. I think we reviewed one of the Camdens. I
believe. Yeah.
Yeah. What was the one before I Got Lucky? What's that one? Is it Come On Everybody?
Come On Everybody, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which we
anyway,
were just
it's been a while.
Yeah. This is Beck. This is your first episode of 2025. Welcome back.
Oh, thank you. I've been on summer holidaying, but yeah, I'm back. I think the last one I did was with Ryan just before Christmas, so it's been about 7 weeks, I think. I've missed you guys.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you too.
So right off the top, before we do anything else, do you guys have any thoughts on the teaser that Baz Luhrmann dropped for the forthcoming? He says it's not really a documentary. He says it's something new in the Elvis canon. But yeah, curious what you guys thought, because obviously Olivia and Chris got to give their perspectives on the last, I guess, 2 episodes ago now. But what do you guys think?
I'll let Beck take it because she's a fellow Aussie.
So, Gurdip, I just live here. I'm not actually Australian.
Oh, okay. Well, how long do you have to live there? How long do you have to live there to be considered,
you
like
do have
Australian?
to apply for citizenship.
Yeah, no, I am a citizen, but I'm not Australian.
Oh,
and
well, if you're a citizen, like a legal citizen, then you are Australian.
Yeah. Well, what do you consider yourself then?
European.
Okay.
Yeah. That's where you're from.
Well, I was born in London, but I grew up in the States and Italy, so I guess that makes me really confused.
What are you?
A world traveler.
World traveler, exactly. But you keep referring to me as Australian on podcasts, so I thought I should put you right, Gurdip.
Okay. Well, there you go. So what do I call you? Just European? That's it?
I don't know. International, if that doesn't sound too wanky.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Anyway, what do you think?
I was about to Baz. Okay. So I don't know if he's doing this on purpose, but I found it a bit confusing because, as you said, Justin, it's been referred to as a documentary before, but then when he was sort of talking about it, it didn't sound like it was definitively going to be a documentary.
Oh, the best part is in the article that he has that quote where he says it's not a documentary. The headline of that article is Baz Luhrmann working on new Elvis Presley docu-feature.
Exactly. So nobody seems to be clear on this. But what did I think about the teaser? Well, I mean, I've said this before. Even if it was pretty ordinary, I wouldn't knock it because I'm just so excited about this coming out. And the thing I picked up on was him referring to some audio that had never been released of Elvis, audio interview. So I was wondering whether that was part of the on tour or whether that's the way it is. It wasn't clear to me. But honestly, I'd love to say I could say something really deep about that teaser, but I can't really.
Gurdip?
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I mean, we're hopefully getting stuff we've never seen. So right away, any kind of Elvis fan out there is in. As Beck said, it could be just shots of scenes that we've never seen. It would be like, oh my God, this is so great. So I don't think it's going to take much to please us. Now the question is, who is he appealing this? Who is he releasing this for? Besides the hardcore fans who are going to be there, is this going to be for general audiences? Is there stuff? Is he going to present it in such a way that it's going to attract casuals? I guess that might be his goal. So maybe that's why he's not calling it a documentary, because documentaries might put off general audiences. Because my wife, whenever I say, like, let's watch a documentary, her eyes kind of glaze over, and she's like, But I know, like us, because we're researchers, amateur researchers, but we're all about the documentary. So maybe that's why he's not labeling it, even though it probably is going to be a documentary. Because what else is it going to be? A concert film? Because he said it's not that either. So I'm thinking he's just leaving it ambiguous, and it's going to be essentially like a documentary of unreleased stuff and some released stuff as well.
But it is Baz Luhrmann, so he could be taking a really novel approach with this, for all we know.
Sure.
Because he is very different, let's face it. So I think that could be quite interesting to see how he does approach it. Maybe he's very anti the kind of, paint by numbers documentary. I just can't see him doing something like that.
Totally. Yep. Yeah. Any other? Go ahead.
Sorry, Justin. Sorry, what did you think of it? Have you already? You've already said it in the last episode, didn't you? Which I haven't listened to. So
what a shock!
What do you mean? What a shock! I do.
Every time we refer in the previous episodes that you've been on, and I refer to something, you're like, "Oh, I've never heard this one yet. Oh, I never heard this one yet." So,
gosh, Justin, he's never gotten over this. That I never went back to episode 1 and listened to them through.
I want you for homework to go back to episode 1 and continue until you show up.
Genuinely upset by this. Actually, I did listen to episode 1 because I was really curious to see how you started versus, where you are now, and it's quite different.
It's pretty bad.
I wouldn't say bad, but it's an evolution. In the same way Elvis evolved as an artist.
Look at these clowns. Look at these chuckleheads.
Anyway, moving on.
Was there any other Elvis news that you guys saw? Gurdip?
Yeah, that FTD that is coming out, right, Justin? The 75, whatever it's called.
Yeah, there's a new FTD coming out. It's Elvis June 75 4-CD set of soundboards. Looks like it's going to be Mobile, Alabama, Houston, Texas, Shreveport, Louisiana, and Jackson, Mississippi, all of which have been released on bootlegs before. So presumably FTD has cleaned them up a little bit and is putting them out officially. So,
all right, it's supposed to come this month, so be on the lookout.
That's pretty exciting.
So, where was Elvis set list wise in 1975?
All 4 of these shows are very similar, but he is introducing Trouble during this run because that's the new single. And Little Darlin' has entered the playlist, or has entered the set list. And weirdly, The Wonder of You has also hung in there in the summer of 75 for over this period, because all four of these shows have The Wonder of You on it. So there's some late versions of Wonder of You on this, but otherwise it's not too far removed from the 74 Memphis show, minus like he doesn't do like the oldies medley in the same way. He sort of started to move to like doing School Days and Johnny B. Good during introductions, like he would do more in 76, 77. So it's transitional.
Yeah, and why would FTD pick these shows specifically to release?
Well, because it's the 50th anniversary of 75.
Oh, of course it is. Do you think you should cut that out?
No.
Leave it in.
I'm leaving it in.
Oh, no.
Fellow Australians are like, yeah, she's not Australian. They don't want to claim you anymore.
No, give your passport back.
Oh.
Can we move on? Because I'm a bit embarrassed.
Oh, yeah. Well, I did want to ask you guys, do you have any theories about what this year's like going to look like? Because do you think we'll get a soundtrack to the Baz Luhrmann thing, or do you think that we're going to get a big box set out of Sony like we got the Memphis set and the Nashville sets and all of that? Do you have any theories or ideas? Because honestly, like, there's not, like, we're not going to have a big anniversary of 1955 because that would be Sun Records, and that's already been covered. We're certainly not getting Harem Scarum.
Why won't they release? They didn't do Harem Scam, right? The full recordings of it?
Well, that's true.
Studio sessions?
There could be a Harem Scarum Sessions from FTD.
Yeah.
I doubt that'll be mainstream.
Oh, no.
FTD, yeah, that would not surprise me if they still got the tapes. At 75, I guess the Today album hasn't been done. So, yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah.
What do you think, Justin? Like, what could they pull out for us?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of what else, because there's 75, and then I guess the 72 stuff, like Burning Love, hasn't been like given the full-on Matt Ross Spang treatment, because the Memphis box set really covered a lot of ground, because it was 69, what else was it? 73, 74, 76. So that covered a lot of ground. So I guess, 72 and 75 are maybe all that we got left. I don't know. We'll see.
A soundtrack would be interesting for the Baz thing, because they did do a soundtrack for The Searcher, I remember. That was good.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe there'll be some more remixes just to piss some fans off.
Gurdip will love that.
Oh, Gurdip would love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Many other fans not care as much for the remixes.
I don't even understand why. It's like, there's a new version of this. Like, does it hurt the old version? Like, come on.
Apparently. It's like painting a mustache on the Mona Lisa. You can't go back to the original. They've defaced it.
Yeah.
Clearly. We do have a few bits of listener feedback that I held from the last episode over to this one. First one comes from Kathy, who is a new patron to our show. Kathy writes in to say, "Hi, TCBcast. I wanted to talk about Elvis's music and career so much, and I'm grateful for your podcast and happily subscribe today to your Patreon. I've been scrolling through your back episodes in my quest to learn more, mostly in order of whatever is aligned to my own rabbit holes. For example, I watched The Searcher on HBO and really loved it, and then I saw that you did 2 episodes about that, so of course I had to listen to those. Went back to watch The Searcher again, and got even more enjoyment out of it as a result of your podcast, and picked up on so many things that I would not have otherwise if it wasn't for you. I also love seeing you collaborate with those Elvis girls. I think one of the things I appreciate about younger/newer fans like all of you, whether that's younger meaning younger in your Elvis journey or younger in your age, is your openness, that you're not invested in pushing a particular agenda or narrative, like the idea that anything Elvis did after the 50s doesn't matter, or that every movie and every song in a movie is terrible. You have your own opinions, but you allow room for your listeners to make up their own minds. Great work, Kathy."
Oh, very nice, Kathy. Appreciate it. Appreciate the compliment, and I hope she's enjoying the extra Patreon stuff.
Yes. Next email comes from George, who is also another new patron. George writes in to say, "Dear Justin and Gurdip, I had so much fun listening to the recent episode ranking Elvis's animal songs."
Ah, yes.
That was a good episode. Beck, what did you think of that episode?
I loved it. I was gutted I couldn't be on it, but it was really, really good.
Did you listen to that episode?
Yeah, I did. I promise you I did.
This is gonna be the thing that ends up becoming Beck's thing. It's like, it hasn't listened to anything. Kathy's heard the Searcher 2 episodes. I bet you haven't listened to those, have you?
I did, actually. That's one I have listened to, I'll have you know.
It really came across that you both enjoyed it too. It's true, we did. I also really enjoyed Gurdip's story about the song Mexico. It reminded me of how me and my brother would ask these music store guys questions about albums, or go in and special order them, and they would give us strange looks because we liked music that was so much older than we were. My top 5 Elvis animal songs would have been number 1, Old MacDonald, number 2, Snowbird, number 3, I Got Stung, number 4, Hound Dog, number 5, Song of the Shrimp. Old MacDonald is almost entirely about animals, so I put it tops, and I love the song Snowbird, thus number 2 spot. Just a reminder that the Great Three Corn Patches also mentions a bulldog in it. I did have a question going back a couple episodes. I heard you guys say that Johnny Rivers took Elvis's version of Memphis, Tennessee several times. I'm thinking that there must be a story here that I've missed. Could you tell this again, if possible? Was he there at the studio when Elvis recorded it? They do sound kind of similar, but Johnny's was taken from a live show at the Whiskey A Go-Go album. Is it possible his record company just thought it sounded good and put it out as a single? I don't know. I just hate to think that he ripped Elvis off. I've always been a Johnny Rivers fan as well. By the way, the second single off that album is also a version of Chuck Berry's Maybelline. I wondered if any of you have heard that version and how the harmonica really sounds out of tune. As always, thanks for your listening enjoyment all of you bring every week. George.
I thought we talked about that, didn't we?
We talked a little bit about it, but I didn't really bring the source for it. I actually do have that here.
Briefly, let us know what happened, the story.
Yeah, so as Peter Guralnick writes about it in Careless Love, quote, early in the summer, Johnny Rivers' version of Memphis hit the charts. It took everyone by surprise because Johnny had been a frequent visitor at the house over the last 3 years. He had played football with them, been accepted as one of the gang, and even jammed with Elvis on the Chuck Berry number after Elvis played him a test pressing of his own recording of the song. There was no question among any of the guys that Johnny had known Elvis was planning to put it out as his next single. Elvis should just release his version now and kill his, they all muttered amongst themselves angrily. But Elvis would not. He just shook his head sorrowfully and said he didn't want to see Johnny anymore. End quote. So that's the story. And in the sources, apparently Guralnick indicated Alan Fortas, Marty Lacker, Joe Esposito, Jerry Schilling, and Red West all corroborating that. But also notes, should be noted that Johnny Rivers today both denies both the knowledge and the rift. So, Interesting.
Maybe we were too quick to jump on Johnny because we just went with that story. So maybe Johnny's
it's in the
true.
book.
I don't know.
Depends.
Everyone can make up their own mind. Go listen to Elvis's version, listen to Johnny's, and see if there is the truth. There might be truth right in the middle somewhere.
Probably. Beck, what do you think of? Have you heard Johnny Rivers' version of Memphis, Tennessee?
I think so, but not for a while. I mean, to be honest, the thing that I was zeroing in on George, it was George, wasn't it? George's email.
Yeah.
Is that Gurdip doesn't know this, but when you were doing Mexico in that episode, I was just in hysterics because you once showed me a photo of yourself when you were, 10 or 11. So I have this image of you in my head anyway, as this kind of angry, frustrated Elvis fan, because you used to call out radio stations because they wouldn't play enough Elvis.
Yep.
And just picturing you just walking into this shop and harassing some poor shop person. There's something wrong here. You've sold me a dud. And it just, I always get so much entertainment out of stories of you as a angry, frustrated Elvis fan. So just keep them coming.
See, what you're picturing is probably pretty close to the truth because I was like that. I was just, I was righteously indignant back then. I kind of am now, but it's kind of, my edges have been smoothed out, so I'm not, although I still do call radio stations as I talked about previously because they tend to play that lame version of Blue Christmas, that Thibodeau version of it rather than Elvis's. And they had to explain it to me. After I called them a number of times, they're like, "Look, people want to hear that song, and we can't play the American version. We have to play some Canadian content." So they're like, "That's why we play that version."
You think it's going to be worse this year because tariffs?
I don't know.
Yeah, probably too soon to joke about that. But you know what? The world needs people like you, Gurdip, advocating for Elvis. So thank you.
That's true. I did advocate for him quite a bit.
Yeah. Last email comes from Christy, who, again, like the last two, is a new patron of the show. And Christy writes in to say, Dear TCBcast, I wanted to just write in and express my appreciation for the very enjoyable listening experience you provide. I specifically enjoy the classic banter between the originals Justin and Gurdip. I could listen to Justin read the phone book, haha. I don't think I'm that interesting.
Your smooth, sultry voice.
Oh my gosh, if there's a crush, I sense a crush happening here.
I noticed Beck gets upset when she's not mentioned by name, so shout out to Beck.
She's like, that Australian girl's really good too.
Stop. I really appreciate the shout out. Thank you. I feel very special right now.
And not forgetting Ryan, Olivia, and John from EAP Society. I'm in my 30s and have been an obsessive Elvis fan for around 3 years now, although I've liked him and respected his talent for as long as I can remember. Because of this, when I heard there was a major biopic in the making, I decided to research the King of Rock and Roll just to see how accurate the movie would be. This led me down a rabbit hole, learning so much that I didn't know about the man and also about Elvis the actor. I had no idea that Elvis had made more than 2 or 3 movies. I knew about Jailhouse Rock and Blue Hawaii. I wouldn't have been able to name any more. Growing up in the 90s, I didn't get to see his movies on TV, especially here in England. I binge-watched all his movies, listened to all of his albums, which included collecting vinyls, which is a new concept to me, soaking up everything available on YouTube, and from fellow hardcore fans online who kindly share FTDs. Shh, we don't talk about that. That was me saying that, not her. The Elvis community is a positive place for the most part, and I've developed some wonderful friendships, actually getting the opportunity to meet up with some of them in Memphis and recently for Elvis's 90th birthday. Getting to experience a rare snowy Graceland made the trip all the more special. Anyway, I was thrilled to discover your podcast. Really appreciate the amount of detail you dive into, especially regarding singles and B-sides. Since I wasn't around during Elvis's lifetime, my knowledge on these is slim. I've purchased the Ernst Jorgensen book, Elvis: A Life in Music, which is basically a Bible of Elvis music and a great source of information. I would say that my Elvis knowledge is strongest regarding photos of Elvis. I feel strongly about fake or photoshopped photos damaging Elvis's legacy. I even started a Facebook and Instagram account dedicated to exposing these terrible edits. The page is called Exposing Elvis Photoshops, as I think it's important to enlighten fans who are not tech savvy and genuinely believe the fakes are legit images of Elvis. Anyway, I'm rambling. I'd like to say how much fun I had listening to your recent episode with Justin and Gurdip reviewing animal-related songs and debating what order to rank them. I laughed my way through a very long night shift with you. It was such a warm, lighthearted episode. Do you think that you'd consider doing a similar episode with Elvis songs which mention different modes of transportation? For instance, Long Black Limousine, Mystery Train, Frankfurt Special, No Room to Rumble in a Sports Car. I'm sure there are tons more you would find. Once again, thanks for all you do to keep Elvis relevant, and I'll see/hear y'all on future shows. All the best, TCB, Kirsty.
Kirsty. Excellent.
That is gold. Transport.
Yeah. That would be an interesting one. Yeah, remember when we were thinking of this episode, we thought it's just going to be, like a lark. It was just, people might like it, but it might be just, ones that people might skip. But it seems like people enjoyed it. It's just written a very nice, lighthearted fare.
Yeah.
So, and transportation, that would be great, Christy. Great idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely want to be on that one. That would be a great one.
And I will say, folks, go check out. I actually have seen a few posts from Exposing Elvis photo. I didn't know it was Kirsty's page, recommended to me in our feed. And she does a really good job of pulling original source images to show where something was pulled from for these fakes. What's funny is that in our host chat, I think it's mostly been Ryan who's sharing a lot of the bad photoshops, but there's so many out there right now. It's pretty rough. So,
well, I want to thank Kirsty because that is a genuine community service she's doing.
It is,
because I've seen some of these, and sometimes the head doesn't even line up with the neck, and I'm sort of thinking, how do people think this is real? So I want to thank her because I just feel that this stuff should not be out there, or at least people should know that it's completely fake.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're going to get more of them with AI.
Definitely.
They're going to be harder to tell.
So far, it's not been that bad. The AI ones right now are pretty obvious when they're AI. So, but thank you, and thanks to everyone who wrote in. And we can dig into our main topic then. Gurdip, what are we doing for our main topic?
Well, speaking of 85, because there's another anniversary there, we decided on the release that came from 85, Elvis, A Valentine's Day Gift for You. And I remember I brought this up with you, Justin, on chat, because you and Beck did a Valentine's Day episode last year. And Justin was running through compilations that would be appropriate. And I was like,
Yeah.
you didn't bring up the actual album that's called Valentine's Day Gift. And I was
We got
like,
called out. I went through and pulled out so many of these love song compilations for Valentine's Day. And the one I forgot is literally the Valentine's Day
yeah,
theme.
the obvious one.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
So
weird.
Call this making up for that oversight.
And you have to bring me a lot to keep you honest.
But Gurdip, I have to correct you though, because it's not a Valentine's Day gift for you. It's actually called a Valentine gift for you.
Oh, okay, sorry. A Valentine gift for you. But I had this album.
Do you?
Yes, I remember I bought this at good old Neptune Records back in the day, and it was one of those things like I saw the track listing and I was like, I have every one of these songs. But you know, sometimes when you go to a store and you're like, you just feel like buying something even though you really don't need it. I was like, it was in that $5 range. And I was like, why not? It looks kind of kitschy. The cover's nice. The back's interesting. Plus the vinyl was red. And I'm like, why not? But I probably played it once or twice. And that was it. It was just one of those things just to have. But I just remember it because it was a red vinyl, and I never had any red vinyls, and it was like that was interesting. But yeah.
Apparently, if you can find the black one, it's worth around $1,000.
Wow!
Holy cow!
I don't have that. Did not have that one.
No.
But did you either of you guys remember this or familiar with this release? I guess you're not because you didn't bring it up.
Well, I wasn't familiar with it, and actually, obviously, for this episode, I did some research, and the 50th anniversary series, because I was so young, it sort of passed me by, and I didn't realize it was a whole collection. So obviously there was this one here, but there's also Golden Celebration, Always on My Mind, Reconsider Baby. Like there's a whole bunch of them, which I wasn't aware that they kind of released this package, but I certainly didn't own it and really wasn't aware of it.
Are you lonesome tonight? Do you miss me tonight? Are you sorry we drifted apart?
I had no idea this existed. Although I have since, in the years since we did that episode and got called out for not including it, I actually have seen this in a record store, and I wish I had picked it up because it's got a neat design. I did end up finding for this episode the CD version of it with the audio, so I'll plug the clips in here so that you can hear, because this was the stuff around the 50th not anniversary, but his birthday, around his 50th birthday. This was around the time that they were first starting to digitally like remaster his music for the first time ever, and actually put stuff out on CD. Like this was an actual compact disc that got put out in the 80s. Very, very early on for CD collectors. Obviously it was on vinyl, and when you get the CD, it's not nearly as impressive as getting that red vinyl. But I like the design on this. You know, I think they did a really good job, especially with that rear cover with the chocolate Elvis.
Oh yeah, the chocolate. Is the CD cover different? Sorry, Goody. Is it CD cover different to the album cover, or is it the same?
The cover is the same. Yeah,
it's the same. Okay.
Yep.
Do you think they actually sold those big chocolate Elvis hearts with his face on it? That would have been interesting.
I haven't seen that they did. I know that there have been other Elvis chocolate products in the intervening years. Like I remember there was Elvis peanut butter and banana Reese's for a period.
That sounds so gross. You can't touch Reese's. Just leave it alone. Like peanut butter chocolate, done. Don't add anything.
But I want to know what Gurdip thinks of the cover, because I know you've got a graphic design background and you do have views on covers. So what do you think of it? Do you like it?
Oh, I think this is great. It really stands out. The whole the red motif is excellent. Much better than any of those 70s covers. And it's a picture of Elvis from what is it, 56, 57?
Yeah.
Probably 57-ish, I think. Might be 58, no?
I don't know if it's 58.
But anyway, he looks nice.
Yeah. He does look nice.
And he has a big smile. So when you're buying this, you're like, I'm going to put this on
very
and
welcoming.
celebrate. Yeah, celebrate Valentine's Day. But although some of the tracks here, I got to kind of raise my eyebrow because I'm like, couldn't they have picked? I mean, some of the omissions are glaring as well when you consider Valentine's Day, but we'll get into that. But it's like, I don't get that. Unless you guys got anything else, we can go through these quickly.
Yeah, let's go through it. Yeah.
Sun lights up the daytime, moonlights up the night. I light up when you call my name, and you know I'm gonna treat you right. You give me fever when you kiss me, fever when you hold me tight. Fever in the morning, fever all through the night.
Well, I will just quickly throw in there that a couple of the names of folks that were involved in the production of this, because Greg Geller was sort of overseeing some of Elvis's content that was coming out at RCA at the time, and Don Wardell specifically was the sort of project marketing coordinator type person, and the art design was apparently done by a guy by the name of Joe Stelmach, who had been doing cover design for RCA products since the early 70s, but hadn't done that many Elvis things prior to this. He had done the design work for A Legendary Performer Volume 4, which I can't imagine was overly complicated considering they were just building upon what was already there with Legendary Performer Volumes 1 through 3. But then right around this, he did Golden Celebration, Always on My Mind, Reconsider Baby, Return of the Rocker. So yeah, this was, he didn't
do the Rocker?
I don't think so. I didn't see it on his Discogs profile.
I mean, it's nice. I like Return of the Rocker. It's a nice. It's like a painted cover.
Yeah, no, I think that this was really good though. Yeah, I just wanted to shout out some of the names of the folks that were involved on the RCA side of putting this collection out. But yeah, we can dive into the music.
Before we go into the music, what do you think about Valentine's Day in general? Do you think it's just like a hallmark, or do you guys celebrate it? Or you're just like, this is just a made up holiday that you don't really have to do anything. If you truly love somebody, you do something for them every day, small things. Do you need a day like this? What do you guys think?
Beck?
Well, me and Mark have never, ever celebrated Valentine's Day. I just feel like it's a little bit forced. So it just comes and goes, and we don't really acknowledge it at all. What about you guys? Yeah, I sort of I don't want to insult anyone because Valentine's Day is really important for some people, but it's just never mattered to me. For me, our anniversary is far more important, even though I have forgotten it a couple of times and got into trouble. It's we just don't celebrate it.
Yeah. Gurdip,
well, me and my wife.
I was about to say, does your wife have those sort of typical expectations of a fancy Valentine's Day dinner?
I don't think expectations, but she does like to do little she likes to go out for dinner for that, which I always like. Restaurants always pack extra tables during Valentine's Day, so you're always back to back with another couple. You're like, oh. And then recently, more so, it's the kids kind of are like, well, we want to come too. Why are you guys leaving us out? So now Valentine's is essentially a family dinner, which is going to be this year as well. So we all just go. And then I'll get her flowers I'll get her flowers and chocolate. But it's not like I don't give her flowers and chocolates on a random day. But it's just I figure why not? But although you've seen, if you go to the store, they jack up the prices of roses and chocolates on that whole week. They do that. So I'm like, this is a racket. But then I fall for it anyway. So I'm against it in theory, but then I participate. So I don't know. I'm a hypocrite, I guess. What about you, Justin?
Oh yeah, no, we don't really do the Valentine's Day. Even the special chocolates and stuff. Just wait until the day after and go get it half off.
Are you one of those people that get Halloween candy the day after?
Yes. Why not?
Because it is cheaper.
It is cheaper.
And Christmas decorations. Do you know what they used to do at my, sorry, just sidebar, do you know what they used to do at my school, which kind of blows my mind now that I think about it, is that just before Valentine's Day, you would be able to put in an order for a rose and then write a note and then put it in like a box, and then someone would sort it out, and in the morning it would be delivered to people. And it's like a way to make people feel like shit when you see, like, you know, the popular girls
gets like a whole bunch.
They still do that. They still do that here.
Really?
Do they?
They do candygrams and stuff like that. Like when I was in school, you would make cards or give cards and then give them to friends, and a bunch of kids would obviously be left out. So it is kind of barbaric, but they still did that. So, and they still continue to do that. Yeah.
In mine, like, it was always more of a, like, it was expected you bring enough for the whole class for, like, you get your little, like, prepackaged Valentine little cards or whatever, and a little treat, and you just give one to everybody. And then, like, at recess, you can give some to your friends or, you know, anyone special or whatever like that. But, like, if you participate at all, you just buy, like, a little, like, box of 30 or whatever, or 25 or however many, and you just make them up ahead of time for everyone in your class. So
interesting. Cool.
But today, but for our listeners, we're going to celebrate Valentine's Day, and we've got a whole bunch of Valentines all for you guys. It's Elvis songs.
You're so young and beautiful. You're everything I love. Your angel smile, your gentle touch are all I'm dreaming of.
There you go. Now, what do you guys think of this track listing?
You know, it's a lot more eclectic than you'd think. I really enjoyed listening to this and sitting down with this, because the only real iconic definitive hits on this are the first and the last song. Everything else is kind of in a gray area where it's like, yeah, a lot of people might know some of the tracks, but there's some deeper cuts on this that I was not expecting. I really enjoyed listening to this.
Justin, you should probably read out the tracks.
Yeah. Why don't you read out the track list?
So, side A has Are You Lonesome Tonight? I Need Somebody to Lean On, Young and Beautiful, Playing for Keeps, Tell Me Why, Give Me the Right, and It Feels So Right. And then side B has I Was the One, Fever, Tomorrow is a Long Time, Love Letters, Fame and Fortune, and naturally closing out with Can't Help Falling in Love.
Now, to me, if I was going to put a compilation together of Valentine's Day appropriate Elvis songs, I think the only ones I would pick from this list is Young and Beautiful, Fever, Fame and Fortune, and Can't Help Falling in Love. The rest, I think there's better choices.
I'm playing for keeps. This time it's real, and I want you to know exactly how I feel.
I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, taking a step back, I agree with Justin. I listened to this and it was actually quite a nice surprise because I don't think I was expecting much, but I agree there are some deep cuts in there. But my first thought was that there are a couple in there that I think don't need to be in there. And I sort of feel like it's a shame that there are no 70s cuts in there, or at least a 69s, I feel like that's completely been ignored. But I'm just interested in what Gurdip said, because he said that you said, Gurdip, that there were some that you would put on there and some that you wouldn't.
Yeah.
And do you mean like if we look at I Was the One, are you saying that that's not a traditional love song because it's about heartbreak and
exactly
being left? Is that what you mean?
Taught her to lie.
Well, it depends on what the goal was for this album. Because when I see a Valentine's Day Elvis album, you think it's all about love, correct? Not
Mm-hmm.
about, oh, we want the listeners to hear these deep cuts, even
Mm.
though maybe they tangentially are about love. And a lot of these are about heartbreak. So I'm like, Are You Lonesome Tonight? I Was the One. Like, this is not about love. This is about, like, I need somebody to lean on. Like, isn't this all about heartbreak?
I need somebody to lean on. I'm tired of being unhappy and so blue. If she came, I would hold her, 'cause I need that shoulder to lean on. Yes, I really do.
Well, I was thinking about this, and I looked back at my list of songs that I did with Justin for the, favorite love songs for last Valentine's. And a lot of mine was sort of about heartbreak and pain and all that sort of thing. So it's really about how you define love. And I think about love when you're sort of a teenager as, the kind of pining and heartbreak, and then all that sort of thing. So
Unrequited.
It's really about, unrequited. So I think it's really quite personal about how you interpret and relate to these songs. But what I will say is that I'm just so happy that they didn't go with a cliched love album with, Love Me Tender on it and et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just happy that they do have those deep cuts, like I Need Somebody to Lean On. But I do, as I said, I just feel that they missed a trick here because, rather than having Playing for Keeps or Tell Me Why, for example, I want What Happened to, Wonder of You, or I don't know, Kentucky Rain or something like that. I just don't know why they stopped at Love Letters, the 66 version, and then didn't go beyond that.
And darling, then I read again, right from the start. Love letters straight from your heart.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
That's my one big criticism, is that, like, the scope of it is so small that, like, and obviously, like, as we've talked about, Elvis has so many love songs, it's sort of absurd. It's hard to pin it down to, like, if you just got to pick, like, a dozen or so, it's really hard to do that because you're going to leave something out that somebody loves. But it is weird that there's nothing from the 70s at all.
They could have done a volume 1 and volume 2, like chucked in Trying to Get to You in there, and then done like a 66 to, 77 volume 2 version, maybe.
Maybe they were waiting for a volume 2, but they just never came, just like the Rocker, Return of the Rocker. And they probably were going to do a volume 2, and then I don't know how well this sold.
It didn't do very well. It didn't even chart. I'm sure it sold okay, but it didn't really move any needles.
Yeah. I just, like Beck said, it's cliche, but I think I would have preferred cliche because Valentine's Day, like, let's be honest, it's kind of tough for some people who actually don't have a significant other. And then people celebrate Valentine's Day. You hear it in school or at work or on TV, and you're like, well, I'm sitting here all alone on Valentine's Day. Maybe let me put on this Elvis album, and it's like, I need somebody to lean on. I Was the One. It's like, man, I don't want to be depressed. I want to be like,
You left me all alone to cry over you. My heart is torn and broken, and there's nothing left to do.
It's supposed to be uplifting. So, as I said, I would have preferred Love Me Tender on this, or Wonder of You, Pledging My Love. Like, there's so many songs, like Loving You, Next Step is Love, Young Dreams, like anything that would just, if you're buying a record that's Elvis and Valentine's Day, I don't want to hear about heartbreak. I want to hear about love. But I guess maybe if that's cliche, then maybe I fall victim to that.
But maybe the intent of this was not to produce something for a traditional Elvis fan. You know, the fact that they chucked on Tomorrow's a Long Time on there, which is I think it's quite a fascinating choice for something like this.
Yeah, I was curious what you guys thought about that, because it's clearly, this is the one track that's also a little different when you listen to the version that is actually on the album. It runs longer in the fade out than it did when it was originally released on the Spin Out album, which was new.
If only she was lying by me, then I'd lie in my bed once again. Ooh.
Obviously, not a big note in hindsight. Like today, we just have like the outtakes and stuff, so we can hear it all the way through. But it was interesting that they decided to put this lengthy, Bob Dylan cover on this album. I don't know. It's interesting that it's on here. Gurdip, what do you think about the inclusion of Tomorrow Is a Long Time?
I mean, it's fine because it's not a song that was like readily available or heard, but I just think it was misplaced here. I think from the cover you're expecting something different, and what they gave you is not what you expected, and they sold you a bill of goods. Like if you're buying something like this, it doesn't reflect the track listing, what you're expecting from the way they presented it.
But you're not getting bad music, though, Gurdip.
No, I never said you're getting bad music.
No, but I mean that. I guess I think it's actually a good thing.
It's like them in the 70s when they would release those Camdens, and they put a picture of Elvis in the 70s, but the whole thing would be full of songs from the 60s.
Yeah, but could this be an album that's just going to hook a fan and make them think, I actually want to hear more music because I want to go beyond just the usual, kind of love songs that are out there that I've heard a million times, when I'm at Walmart.
Who cares for fame and fortune? They're only passing things. But the touch of your lips on mine makes me feel like a king.
Sure. You don't know, but it depends on who you're appealing to, who picks this up. If somebody who's new to Elvis picks this up, they're like, I don't know about these songs. But if they picked up a song that had all his, classic love songs, then be like, oh, this sounds good. But then again, it would be reverse. It'd be like, say it's a fan that's more than surface level, and they're like, oh, I like these songs because they're not ones I've typically heard. Just depends on the audience. But as Justin there said, it didn't sell very well, so that argument's out the window.
Anyway, I really like the track list. I think, like I said, it's a very eclectic playlist. In fact, I'm gonna put this together on Spotify and put that out with this episode, so folks can listen to it and just hear kind of what it's like. Since obviously this compilation has not been reissued since.
You should put a Gurdip Ladar cut and put all the songs that I said.
No,
and
you should put out a Gurdip Ladar cut. I'm not. Why would Justin Gosman put out the Gurdip Ladar cut?
Because I'm not. I only come up with ideas. I'm not going to go through with it.
You're an idea man, not an execution man.
Exactly. Hence, you do all the editing on this show. I'm the talent. I just go and say a few dumb things, and I'm out. Then you brought Beck along to say even dumber things.
See, Justin, like, how do I deal with him? I mean, really, like, I put up with enough on bloody Messenger, and now
like, he keeps calling me Australian on top of that.
I know. And then you keep telling me that all the songs I like are wrong, so, like the wrong ones to like. Like, where do I go with this?
I know. Anyway,
moving on.
Anything else about this album?
Only that
I
it was a
don't know.
nice
At this
surprise.
point, I'm so far. I'm so deep in the show that I don't even think about it anymore. I just kind of let Gurdip do his own thing.
Just let him ramble. He'll get tired soon enough. His mouth will go dry out. Eventually, I hope.
Exactly.
Well, do you know what? According to my count, he's only interrupted me once, so we're doing pretty well so far.
There you go.
Do you think it's weird that there are two songs back to back and the title has the word right in it? Give me the right and it feels so right.
This is the only for tonight. We're gonna love our whole life through. 'Cause baby, if it feels alright, how can it be wrong? You can't say no. When I need you so, I want you back in my arms. Give me the right.
That's
I
weird.
don't know.
Oh no, I just thought that was weird.
I'm just curious who came up with this track listing. Like, they obviously must have, must be a group of people at least thought of.
Yeah,
what
it was
they're gonna
probably
put on
Don
this.
Wardell and Greg Geller.
Yeah,
presumably.
I'm just curious, like, why they picked
'Cause
these and
Don
why did they
took
go to?
Don took over from Joan Deary in the early 80s, so I would assume that those were the two that kind of compiled this. So,
All right.
it's not a bad set. I also like how moody like it kind of is, especially to start with. Like, you would think that like on a lot of Elvis compilations, you want to grab people right off the start, you know. But on this one, it's like it's a mood setter. Like, you're getting "Are You Lonesome Tonight," and then "I Need Somebody to Lean On," and then "Young and Beautiful," and "Playing for Keeps." Like, it's all like it's setting a mood, you know. And then kind of in the middle, it, you know, starts to get a little hot and heavy. But you know, it goes from there.
Maybe they should have put the subtitle on this album.
Although
like,
you can't really get too far because you got to flip it over at some point.
Yeah.
maybe they should have called this "Love and Heartbreak." Would have made more sense.
Love and Heartbreak.
Like Valentine's Day gift for you, love and heartbreak. There's a love side and a heartbreak side. See, now that's an idea.
Yeah, that's really going to sell it, though, isn't it, Gurdip?
Yeah, why not? And they can
Yeah.
the vinyl. The vinyl could be red on one side and black on the other side. It's the heartbreak side and the love side. See, I'm just an idea, man. Somebody write this down and make it happen, Justin. Press some vinyls when you get some time.
I'm going to disclose two songs, though, that I just really don't think should be on there, or
Which
I wish went on.
ones?
Sure.
Playing for Keeps and Tell Me Why,
Why is that? Why is that?
because I don't particularly...
Care for
Don't
them?
particularly... Yes.
It's no different than Gurdip half the time. Just like, I don't like this song. It shouldn't be on here.
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't exist.
I'm just waiting for Gurdip to tell me I'm wrong for not rating
No, I
it.
mean, I wasn't a big fan of those back in the day either. There's this kind of slow plotting, but now I've kind of come around and I'm like, yeah, I like these. And plus, it's 50s. A lot of the 50s stuff I find something good. Like there's something with the 50s stuff that I'll always enjoy, even if it's a song that I don't typically listen to, like the B side of the Christmas album. I'll still like put it on and I won't skip it. So that's just my bias for the 50s, because that's what I first was when I was introduced to Elvis that I listened to.
Fair enough.
You'd totally keep "I Was the One" in Fame and Fortune, though, right, Gurdip?
Oh, I was the one you got it.
Oh, absolutely.
Even though I
Justin,
think it doesn't fit. Yeah, go ahead, Beck.
I just was interested to hear which ones Justin would bin, if any.
Ooh, which ones I would get rid of? Yeah. Much as I like it, probably I would kick "Tomorrow Is a Long Time" out.
Oh.
You just praised it. Now you want to kick it out.
It's great recording.
But it just doesn't fit.
I would probably much more ideally throw something like "Let It Be Me," "The Wonder of You," "Pledging My Love," something from the 70s. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just on the 70s though. So they picked the 66 version of Love Letters, right?
Yes.
Which kind of makes me think, well, maybe they were just intending to do a 50s and 60s.
Maybe they were going to do a 70s and then it just didn't catch on. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
entirely possible.
Hmm.
That would have been interesting.
Like a river flows surely to the sea, darling, so it goes. Some things are meant to be. Take my hand, take my whole life too.
Cool. Well, I don't have much more to say about it other than I really enjoyed sitting down and listening to it, and highly recommend that if you need a playlist for Valentine's Day, give A Valentine Gift for You a listen, because it's good Elvis music.
Yeah.
You guys have
Let us
anything
know
else?
what you guys think.
Yeah.
No, nothing else. I have it somewhere. It's at my dad's place. I got to find my vinyls.
Beck, anything else?
Only that it was a pleasant surprise. I really enjoyed. I did what you're proposing to do, which is put it on a Spotify list, and I've been playing it, and I really like it.
Great. Let's head on over to Song of the Week then.
Elvis Presley, and here he is.
Punch it, pound it. What good does it do? Crawfish. I want a teeny weeny bit, a teeny weeny bit. See how they run. Who learned a lesson when she broke my heart? I was the one. It's a da 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 da. That's all.
I think Beck wants to go first.
Why do you think I want to go first?
I just thought that since it's your first episode of the year, you'd be gung-ho.
And I'm raring to go.
Exactly.
Okay, well, here we are with my Song of the Week, and my Song of the Week is Wild in the Country.
A rose grows wild in the country. A tree grows tall as the sky. The wind blows wild in the country, and part of the wild, wild country am I.
Which was written by Hugo Peretti, Luigi Creatore, and George Weiss, who also wrote Can't Help Falling in Love with You. And incidentally, Peretti and Creatore, they actually signed with RCA Records, and they produced recordings by Perry Como, Sam Cooke, and Ray Peterson. Now, Wild in the Country is, of course, the title track to one of my favourite Elvis movies, Wild in the Country. And whilst I would say that In My Way is my favourite ballad in the movie over this one, I still think that it's got its own particular charm because, you know, like the other ballads, it's essentially an acoustic guitar, very subtle bass line and the Jordanaires. So you can basically bask in the glory that was Elvis's voice in 1960, smooth as honey. So I've always really enjoyed listening to this. And what do you both think, actually? I might ask you at this point what you think of this song.
Yeah, this is pretty good. It's not one that I really go back to because growing up, it wasn't like one of those songs that I would listen to a lot, but have come to appreciate it. I like that it's essentially just a guitar and his voice, and you can really hear the emotion coming from him. So that part is good. And I've come to appreciate it more now than I did in the past. In the past, it was one of those skippable tracks. I'm like, I don't care about this. But now, yeah, I do like it quite a bit.
Like the deer and the dove, wild and free is this land that I love. A dream grows wild in the country.
Stop it. Start again.
Elvis,
Yes.
We hold off a little longer.
While the country takes over.
Justin?
I do like it. It does feel, maybe we talked about this when we did the movie review, in the same way that The Lost Country is a little overly flowery as a novel. I think this is kind of trying to do the same thing. I don't know. I think that there's something missing from the performance. I think Elvis is a bit meek on it, especially when hearing the outtakes, which I know you're going to talk about. There's an approach to it that I know he takes in the outtakes that I almost wonder if that might have been better as a record version versus the version that's in the film. I can see where they, for the tone setting of this sensitive character in the this movie you're about to watch, they would want something that's a little lighter and gentler. But maybe they should have done a more adventurous record version.
Yeah, it's so interesting you say that, because I'll talk about the takes, and there are 19 takes, but my takeaway is that Elvis wanted to do something with this so that it wasn't, completely linear in terms of the song and the interpretation, but I feel like he didn't quite get there, because I don't think he really worked out what to do with it. But I'll talk about that when I talk about the takes. But in terms of when it was recorded on the 7th of November 1960 at Radio Recorders, and it was actually 8 days after the His Hand in Mine sessions in Nashville. So he basically got in a car, as I understand it, and drove over to Hollywood to record that soundtrack. At the session, we had Scotty Moore, of course, Tiny Timbrell on guitar, DJ Fontana, Dudley Brooks on piano, and Jimmy Haskell on the accordion, and Maya Rubin on the bass. And it was the third song they recorded that night after Lonely Man and In My Way, which were both ballads, of course. Now, as I said, it took 19 takes to get to the master, and out of the 19, we've got 5 complete takes, but the rest are false starts or long false starts. So obviously I'm not going to go through every single, take, but there are a couple I'm going to pull out. So on the first take, they obviously wanted to, in my view, try and do something a bit differently with it. So they actually have a piano, drums, and harmonica playing in addition to the acoustic guitar and the bass. So what it does is it gives the song a completely different vibe, because it's so much more layered, and therefore it sort of feels a bit less intimate. And they begin laying down the track in take one in a really high key. And the Jordanaires have a slightly fancier backing vocal. And I know, Justin, you'll stick in a clip of this, but they add, I'm really not going to do justice to this, but they add a kind of do backing vocal at one point. And then what Elvis does around Wild Wild, he goes up full voice. So this is what I mean about the fact that he's trying to think about what to do with it. He feels that at that point in the middle 8, he needs to not make it a bit more interesting, but kind of differentiate it or make it stand out from the rest of the song, so it's not so linear.
A rose grows wild in the country. A tree grows tall as the sky. The wind blows wild in the country, and part of the wild, wild country am I. Wild like the deer and the dove.
Hold it a second.
By take 2, the key has been brought down. At least that's what I thought, having listened to it. And the Jordanaires have simplified their backing vocals, so there's no do. The band have been stripped out, other than the acoustic guitar and bass, and Elvis has ditched the full voice Wild. he ends the take again at wild, and he does this several more times through the takes. And as I said, it's almost like he wants to do something to distinguish that middle eight from the vibe of the rest of the song, but isn't quite sure what to do yet by take two. So after he ends the take, he actually practices singing wild a couple of times.
Wild, wild, like the deer and the dove. Hold it. Wild, 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 wild. I don't like it back here.
Wild the country, take 3.
Take 3 is a false start, take 4 is a false start, take 5 is a false start, take 6 is a long false start, and take 7, he seems to not be happy about how he's hitting wild. And take 8 is a good take. He's getting the hang of it and getting into the flow of it. 9 and 10 are false starts. Take 11 is complete, perfectly fine. 12 is a false start. And then 13, the producer says lucky 1, 3. And I think Elvis kind of lands what he wants to do with the middle 8 by giving a bit more vocal attack or emphasis to wild without over dramatizing it. So I think maybe that's kind of where he got to.
Wild, wild, like the deer and the dove. Wild and free is this land that I love. A dream grows wild in the country. A love grows tall as the sky.
So in terms of the movie version, they don't seem to have added any instrumental overdubs. They've left it clean, which I think was the right thing to do. It was released in 1961 as the B-side to I Feel So Bad, and Wild in the Country, it peaked at number 26, whilst I Feel So Bad peaked at number 5, which kind of doesn't surprise me because I don't think there's sort of commercial appeal in a track like Wild in the Country, although others might disagree with me. So I'm going to talk about the covers. There are a few, and I think a lot of them might be ETA ones, but there's a couple I'm going to pull out. There's one by a Brit called Ricky Henderson, and that was recorded in 1961. And Ricky actually entered a talent contest in England, and he won a recording contract off the back of that on the Woolworths recording label. And it's nothing to write home about. When the arrangement is largely the same, but he does it a bit more full voiced. And again, it's the kind of acoustic and backing vocal approach. So as I said, the arrangement's largely the same.
Wild, wild, like the deer and the dove. Wild and free is this land that I love. A dream grows wild in the country. A love grows tall as the sky.
But there's another one I'd like to call out, which is in German, and it's by a German artist called Ted Herold. And he, in the late 50s, he was billed as a German Elvis, and he recorded a version that was translated into German by Alfred Ronald and Peter Grosser, and it's called, and I want to apologize to our German-speaking listeners, it's called Das Lied von der Liebe.
Der Wind singt das Lied von der Liebe, das Lied voller Sehnsucht und Glück. Das Meer singt das Lied von der Liebe. Mein Mädchen, ich komm eines Tages zurück.
Which means the Song of Love. And I tried to hunt for the German lyrics to this so I could Google translate it and see if the lyric themes are similar, but I couldn't find them. And incidentally, his first ever record was Ich brauch keinen Ring. So I'm going to ask you both, do you know which Elvis song that was?
Wear my ring around your neck?
Correct. Ding!
Yay! I got it.
Good job.
Yeah, you got it. Excellent. But that's basically Wild in the Country for you. I don't know if you want to add anything or any more comments on Wild in the Country.
I don't think it should have been an A-side, even though it was promoting the film. It's not A-side material. I think.
Well, apparently it was a B-side.
Yeah.
Was it a B-side? I thought
Yeah.
it was the A-side.
No, I Feel So Bad was the...
Oh, okay. Okay. Because I thought I remember seeing it as the A-side, but yeah, I probably mistaken.
I mean, in that time period, a lot of times they did those double covers where
Yeah, I might have seen that there.
the bolder text is for whatever is on that side. So
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Gurdip, I actually thought I'd seen that it was an A-side somewhere as well, so I actually checked with Justin, and he said it was. He confirmed it was a B-side.
Yeah, and then it wasn't available after the single came out. It didn't come out till I think the early 70s on that Other Sides Worldwide Gold Awards Volume 2. So it wasn't easily, at least if you missed out on that single, you had to wait a bit before you could actually get it on the album.
or hope for a screening on television, so you tape it off the television.
There you go. And they did put it on that Elvis and Presley box set.
That's right.
The silver one. So cool.
Yeah, good pick. Gurdip, you want to take it?
Sure, mine's pretty quick. I picked Double Trouble, 1966, from the film Double Trouble.
Some guys fall in love with one girl, I gotta fall for two. There's just so much loving that one heart's supposed to do. So I go around with my heart dragging on the ground, dogging me around. I'm the sorriest sight in town. I got double trouble, I got double trouble, I got double trouble. Twice as much as anybody else, oh yeah.
So this was written by Pomus and Schumann, so right away, you got a great pedigree on this. But at this point, great songs from them were far and few between, especially Elvis ones. I guess they eventually just got tired of the whole Elvis music machine, which a lot of writers did. Like, how many songs can you submit and then they get rejected and you're like, well, what was the point of that? But when it comes to mid to late 60s movie songs, I think this is one of the better ones. It's not great, but it's catchy and the lyrics are kind of humorous and it's fast paced. Also, it's very short. Like, it's 1 minute and 38 seconds. So I don't know how you could hate something that goes in and out that quick. Maybe you got to ask women to answer that one. But anyway, now, does it sound like Elvis is into the song? Probably not. He probably hated it, especially because to save money, they had him record at the MGM sound stages. So, he wasn't a fan of that. So, he probably wasn't having a good time with this song, but I still like it. It's when I have put it on in the past, I don't forward it. One, because it probably over by the time I get up and change the track back in the day. What do you guys think of it, Beck? What do you think of Double Trouble?
I completely agree with you. It's not a bad song. It's an okay song. It's inoffensive. It's brief, and it's better than some of the other songs that were coming out. So, in agreement, go deep. Surprisingly.
Mm-hmm. Justin.
So I actually, when I was a very young Elvis fan and first getting online and starting to discover his discography and a lot of the imports and bootlegs on Jordan's Elvis World, this was one that I vividly remember taping it and putting it on a mixtape of Elvis songs that I had found. And
Is it Justin Jams Volume 4?
Kind of, except all Elvis songs. And okay. Just whatever I found that I happened to like the sound of, and I was, I hadn't gone that deep so far, and this one sounded good to me, and so I ended up hearing this one a lot as a young fan, just because I had thrown it on this mixtape, and I think it was like one of the first couple tracks I threw on that mixtape. So obviously, when you rewind the tape, you throw it on there, you hear it a lot. So I kind of have a weird affection for this, even though I don't really care for the movie, and once I eventually saw it, I really didn't care for it. It's okay. Like, it's Definitely not Pomus and Schumann's finest work for Elvis, but it's not bad either. So you can tell that they were everyone here was, they weren't phoning it in, but they showed up to work and they put in their time and then they clocked out.
Just there's gotta be two dark clouds hanging over me. My future looks as bumpy as a matchbox on the sea. Every time I think that I have finally got it made, some losing cards are played. I just can't make the grade. I got double trouble. I got double trouble. I got double trouble. Twice as much as anybody else. Oh yeah.
I wonder if you guys have affection, or because the writers, it probably boosts it up a bit more than any other song would in that soundtrack, especially.
I think it's an all right song, though.
Yeah. So as I said before, it was recorded on the MGM soundstages in June 29th, 1966. They did 4 takes, with 4 being a composite master. Take 1 is complete, but man, this sounds so much better than the master they released, because whatever mastering they did at the end really muted the overall effect. And this one really hits real harder, like much harder than what we got eventually. Take 2 is a false start. With
Take 1's also slower, isn't it?
Slightly, but not enough that you would be like, "Oh, this is horrible."
Yeah,
because I don't mind it. Like, it was fine. Take 2 has a false start, with Elvis making a weird noise at the end. Take 3 is also complete, with Elvis talking at the end. He goes something like, "Lord have mercy," which is interesting. So maybe he was kind of having fun.
Double trouble, I got double trouble. I got double trouble. Twice as much as anybody else. Oh yeah. Oh, up. Oh, up. Lord have mercy. Help.
And finally, take 4 is what they used for the master. And then they did a work part where they finished it with an ending, because the actual take 4 just kind of abruptly ends. But then they used both of those to make the master. And this came out on the Double Trouble soundtrack in June of 1967. And obviously you can check out Elvis perform part of the song in the opening of the film Double Trouble, which we still have to review, correct, Justin?
Yes.
So be on the lookout for that. That should happen this year, I hope.
Yeah.
We haven't touched it.
Twice as much as anybody else. Oh yeah. Whoa, up. Whoa, up. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Okay, you're on, girls.
Is it true you're leaving us for Belgium, Guy?
Yep, leaving tomorrow night.
Oh, boo-hoo.
Boo-hoo? That's a good title for a song.
Anyway, that was my song of the week. Obviously, there are no covers, but still, good song. Good song. Not too bad. What do you got, Justin?
Very nice. Yeah, so my song of the week, coming up here at the end, needs a little context, and I'm going to play an audio clip for all of our listeners, because this is kind of an important thing, having Elvis on record say this.
Elvis, most people have a song that's sort of special to them. Do you have a favorite song?
My favorite song is a song called Padre. Are you familiar with it, by Tony Arden? And also, You'll Never Walk Alone was always one of my very favorites.
Yes, I'm doing Padre as my song of the week, one of Elvis's favorite songs.
Nice.
Padre, Padre, what happened to our love so true? Padre, oh Padre, in my grief I turn to you.
But he's been asked that multiple times, and it's usually a different answer.
I'm trying to think if there's another time where he was explicitly asked that.
Was he? I can't remember now.
I don't think there was.
Anyway, go ahead.
But yeah, that was in 1958. Obviously, times change, you know, much like any music fan. Whatever you consider your favorite song will probably change over time. But at that moment in time, it was one that was really hitting him. And so I wanted to dig into the history of Padre. It turns out there's a lot more to it than I thought. It originally was a French song called Padre Don Jose, written by Alain Romans, a Polish-born songwriter who's known to have spent time in Germany and France, becoming educated as a classical pianist. He was born in 1905. Eventually, he settled in France and found a love of jazz music. And he was perhaps most known for working as a composer on about a dozen or so French films in the 1950s. And according to at least one biography I was able to find, he sort of fell into obscurity in the later part of his life after briefly owning a restaurant, and then eventually passed away in December 1988. But he wrote this instrumental, and lyrics were added to it by Jacques Leroux, who was French, born in Paris in 1906. Very little of his early life biography online, but it's known that he came to popularity in 1939 after his song My Village in the Moonlight was performed by Jean Sablon in 1939, and afterwards he began collaborating as a lyricist with a number of different composers, writing songs for singers, films, and the stage, and by the 50s and 60s he was also frequently adapting international songs from their native language back into French. So sort of the inverse of what he did as his job kind of ended up happening to his song. So these two guys wrote the song, and then it came out in 1956. I don't really know what I couldn't find any information as to where she got it from. Presumably it was written directly for her, but Gloria Lasso, a French singer, recorded the original French lyrics in 1956, and what's fascinating is that the original French lyrics aren't too far removed from what the eventual English lyrics that we'll talk about in a minute ended up being, because it's basically that Padre Don Jose married this couple together and kind of promised her, the singer, that things would be okay as long as she stayed faithful and prayed and kind of kept the faith in the relationship. And obviously the guy ends up getting stolen away by a girl with golden eyes and sort of lures him away. And it's just sort of about the relationship falling apart and sort of pleading with the father, like, why did this happen? You know, you said that things were going to be okay.
Ma tombée dans ses lourds cheveux, des perles et des rubis, et donne à qui le veut tous ses baisers maudits.
In 1958, it eventually made its way overseas, and new English lyrics were added to it by Paul Francis Webster, and it was recorded by Tony Arden, which is the version that Elvis was most familiar with, and it ended up becoming a bit of a minor hit for her, peaked at number 13 on the Billboard chart. Now, Paul Francis Webster, he had a number of lyrical works that became pretty big hits. Love is a Many Splendored Thing was a song that he wrote the lyrics to. Doris Day's Secret Love, Duke Ellington's I Got It Bad and That Ain't Good, April Love by Pat Boone was one that he did the lyrics for. And he also did the lyrics for The 12th of Never, which was added on top of the Riddle song. And of course, Elvis would much later go on to do a rehearsal version of The 12th of Never. But what's kind of interesting is there's one other song that Paul Francis Webster wrote lyrics to later, about 10 or so years after this, from the 60s, that Gurdip, I know you're very familiar with. He did the lyrics for the Spider-Man theme.
In the chill of night, at the scene of a crime,
Like a streak of light, he arrives just in time. Spider-Man, Spider-Man, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Wealth and fame, he's ignored. Action is his reward to him. Life is a great big bang-up. Wherever there's a hang-up, you'll find the Spider-Man.
Oh, interesting. The 60s one, right?
Yes, Spider-Man does whatever his spider
There's
can.
a new Disney Plus Spider-Man TV show, and they use that theme remixed in the opening, which is interesting.
And they've also used the melody of it orchestrally in the more recent movies with Tom Holland.
Yeah, but they actually like flat out use the original vocals and everything, the lyrics on this new TV show that came out, which is interesting.
So,
which I love. I love that song. That's just nostalgia for me. Anytime I hear that, I'm 4 years old again. I'm 5 years old again. Sitting cross-legged in front of the TV in my PJs with a bowl of cereal. Like it gives me the feels just hearing that.
An angry and frustrated 5-year-old.
Yeah, always perpetual frown on my face.
The writer of the Spider-Man theme song also wrote the English lyrics for Padre. And so Tony Arden recorded this on the Decca label in April 58. It was released. Like I said, was a top 20 hit for her. Have either of you heard the Tony Arden version of it before?
Please tell me how such things can be.
I believe I have. I just can't remember it. But yeah, I think it was pretty good though, from what I remember.
Yeah. Beck, have you heard Tony Arden's version of it?
I'm afraid I haven't.
I do actually recommend it. She's got a really nice voice. You can see what Elvis would like about it. Obviously, we know that he was a fan of a lot of female ballad singers, like Teresa Brewer, obviously, earlier in the 50s. Speaking of which, Teresa Brewer actually did a version on her 1967 album, Texas Leather and Mexican Lace.
What happened to our love so true?
So Teresa Brewer did a version on that, and hers is actually very similar to Tony Arden's, slightly different in arrangement, but vocally is not too far removed. So before I go any further, what do you guys think of Elvis's version of Padre? Beck?
Do you remember we talked about Padre on the first episode I was ever on? Because we did the 71 National Reviews.
Yeah.
And I probably stand by what I said, which is I like it, but I feel like he took the drama element a little bit too far.
Okay.
Would you agree?
Gurdip, what do you think?
No, I think this is good. I like, what do we call those? The clackers on it.
Yeah.
They were overdubbed, but I don't know. Something about that just adds to it. They could have thrown this on the Fun and Acapulco soundtrack, and I would have been happy.
They're leaning into the Mexican feel of, the idea of it's a Padre, so it's a, like you think of a Catholic mission or something in Mexico or something like that.
The day that we wed, you blessed us and said, may heaven bestow you grace. There in that holy place, we shared our first embrace. Our cottage was small, but richer than all the palaces of the king.
Yeah. And he vocally, I think he sounds really good. He's really leaning in that operatic type vocals, which, shows off his skills, which I really like.
But do you think he overdoes it? Like, should he have pulled back a little bit on the drama?
Why?
just a question.
That's why I wanted to talk about this, because a lot of people seems to be a very divisive song amongst a lot of Elvis fans, where there's a lot of vitriol towards the song. Like, I've heard people say that this is like one of the worst recordings Elvis ever did.
Oh.
No, that's going too far.
Yeah. Are they saying it's too bombastic?
That it's too bombastic, that it's too over the top, that Elvis just it doesn't do it for him, that he's missed the mark. And I think that is wildly wrong. And especially when you know that it is one of his favorite songs, that he'd been wanting to do it, or that he had been a fan of it for so long. And in terms of, whether he overdoes the drama, if you go back and listen to, either the original in French or the Tony Arden version, which we know Elvis was obviously familiar with, like, the drama is kind of the point of the song. Like, when Tony Arden's going off about, now she's the one that cries, like, she makes it sound emotionally, she expresses like she's crying when she's singing the lyric. Like, the over-the-topness is part of what the song is, and that Elvis liked the song meant he liked the drama of the song. So you kind of can't get around that and have Elvis do a cover of it, like that. If he's going to embrace artistically what the point of the song is, it's this outcry of emotion from this singer. And it's just what it is.
Then she came along and sang him her song and won him with honeyed lies. She of the golden eyes, now it's my heart that cries.
So I kneel and pray the hours away, and weary my heart has grown, wondering where love has gone, counting my tears alone.
As we talked about on the very first episode that you were ever on of TCBCast, Beck, Elvis recorded this May 15th, 1971 at RCA Studio B in Nashville, and they did 11 takes. Weirdly, though, only a handful are available to us. Take one is a rehearsal. It's kind of interesting because you can hear Elvis singing along at the beginning, and he's sort of giving instruction about how to do the introduction of the song. Like, you can even hear him sort of playing and giving an example on guitar of how to do it.
Hey, Charlie, that can be just the intro. Just that. Excuse me, fellas. Just say. That could be the intro. The day that... The day that we wed, you blessed us and said... Okay, here we go.
And it's just really nice to hear. There's not actually like a proper take for take one. It's just the rehearsal. Take two, then, is a full take. Now, what's kind of neat is that Elvis, there's a line in the song where it's supposed to go, then he came along and sang her his song and won her with honeyed lies, he of the golden eyes. And Elvis kind of mixes it up a little bit. He says eyes twice, which he knows like isn't right.
Then he came along and sang her his song and won her with honey eyes. He of the golden eyes. Now it's my heart that cries.
But it's interesting because that line changes by the time we get to the master that we know. He completely changes the lyric to he of the fiery eyes. Now, we're missing most of the middle takes, so we pick it back up on take 11, which is on the FTD and the Back in Nashville set. But he still gets the lyrics wrong in that section because he says honeyed lies and then golden lies.
Then he came along and sang her his song and won her with honey lies. He of the golden lies. Now it's my heart that cries.
And And I was sitting there trying to figure out, okay, where did this fiery eyes thing come from? Because this it's not in the Tony Arden version of it. It's not in the Teresa Brewer version of it. And there's nothing to indicate that this would have come from the original French lyrics. Certainly Elvis wouldn't have been probably familiar with that necessarily. But even then, translating it's not in there. Well, as it turns out, the year before Elvis recorded his, Marty Robbins did a version of it. And he actually changed the line to "Won her with sugared lies, he with the fiery eyes."
Padre, in my grief, I turn to you. Then he came along and sang her a song and won her with sugared lies. He with the fiery eyes. Now it's my heart that cries.
So it turns out that Elvis's lyrics are kind of a weird composite of the original Tony Arden and the Marty Robbins version. It's kind of interesting.
Then he came along and sang her his song and won her with honey lies. He of the fiery eyes. Now it's my heart that cries. So I kneel and pray the hours away, and weary my heart has grown, wondering where love has flown, counting my beats alone.
So is that all Elvis? Like, would he have done that?
That he sort of combined the two, and changed the line. Yeah, I don't know, because he does do the golden eyes thing on that take too. So it's like he was clearly familiar and clearly knew from the Tony Arden version what it was supposed to be. But he ends up using the Marty Robbins line. And it does almost make me wonder, because stylistically there's not too much that is similar in arrangement from Marty Robbins and Elvis's version. I don't think that he was necessarily pulling direct influence from it in any other way, other than maybe it just maybe he encountered Marty's version of it and was like, oh, hey, there's that song again. Maybe I should do my version of it now. But that kind of fits timeline wise, that it's like Marty's comes out the year before, after Elvis hasn't talked about it in public for over a decade, or coming up on over a decade. Because obviously if he had wanted to record it at any time in the 60s, he certainly could have. So it was interesting to hear that lyric change in the final version of it. But one thing that happens in Take 11 is that you do notice that Elvis is peaking out the signal. And in the final mix, you can definitely tell that they're trying to restrain that in the mix, because they did end up adding overdubs, as you mentioned, Gurdip. Not only are the clackers overdubbed, but also all of the strings and everything like that, which, of course, a lot of Elvis fans weren't fans of as well, because how dare the king of rock and roll be doing, a Spanish style, love ballad or something like that. But
he would have never done that.
No,
he's never done that.
It's so over the top, But yeah, I really like what Elvis is going for here. Clearly he's being swept away by the song and just getting wrapped up in the performance, and that's what sort of pushes it, to where he's not paying attention to technically what he's supposed to be doing, because he does peak out the signal. If you listen to the undubbed version on that Back in Nashville set, that it's pretty obvious that he's basically screaming into this microphone.
Please tell me how such things can be. Pray for my love and me.
And so I can see why they needed to pull it back. I don't know why they didn't continue to do more takes. There may be something that happens between take 2 and take 10 that we're not aware of because we don't have those takes. That may have given him reason to not go back to it after kind of getting something usable out of it. But it is kind of interesting because the overdubs were added in 1971, but it remained unreleased for a couple years, finally surfacing on the 1973 album Elvis, which, as I've talked about before on the show, was one of the first other LPs of Elvis's that I had outside of the couple I inherited from my grandfather. So I had this pretty darn early in my fandom.
That's the Fool album, right?
The Fool album, yeah. And so I've always really, really liked Padre. And I can see where people would think, like, maybe that he's overdoing it. But to me, it just shows that he wanted to do something with the song. He was really passionate about it. I don't have a problem with it. So I think it's good, especially now that they have the undubbed version that you can go listen to on the Back in Nashville set if you don't like those overdubs. Yeah.
I remember it was also on that He Walks Beside Me album that came out in 78. That was another one I had. I don't know why I bought it.
It's interesting, yeah, because it's not really a gospel song, but it does have that churchy element in the sense that it obviously is talking to a preacher and that they had, gotten married and that heaven was going to, bestow grace in the holy place where they got married. It's not really a religious song, though. It's kind of, if you're chewing a preacher out, it's not really a...
It's weird you said it's not religious. Like that, the back of that album, He Walks Beside Me, literally there's like a cross, like a church steeple.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Well, Justin, thank you for not challenging me on the first time I was ever on the show. You were very polite.
You were a guest.
I was a guest.
Now I can just challenge you whenever.
Yeah, anytime you like.
Although I won't challenge you as much as Gurdip will.
No,
Never.
that would be impossible.
I got to go back and listen to your first appearance. I can't even remember what it was like.
Did you listen to it?
Maybe not. Maybe because I wasn't on. I try not to listen to episodes that I'm not on.
Well, there you go. So you can't have a go at me. Do you know, I still maintain that was probably the best episode I've ever been on because it was the first time I'd ever been able to talk about Elvis with someone who was an Elvis fan. So I had all this pent up stuff and opinions and things I wanted to say. And so it still remains my favorite episode I've done, I think, just because it was just a big moment for me.
Well, that's. I mean, the fact that you came on and did that episode when that was like, Gurdip, I think you and I were supposed to do that episode together.
I can't remember now. When was that? 2 years ago?
2021, wasn't it?
Wow.
Beck, 2021.
Yeah, I think it was. It was
the 50th anniversary of 71.
You're right. Yeah, it's been a while.
So, but that's when we knew that, like, oh, she can handle the Nashville set just fine. Oh yeah, we're gonna invite her to be a co-host on the show.
Let's keep bringing the Australian girl back.
Oh, stop.
So yeah, this has been a really fun episode. I've really enjoyed doing this one.
Yeah, this was fun. Similar to the pet episode or the animal episode, and I think we have to bring Beck on when we do the motor vehicles or driving or any kind of traveling. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that was excellent. Hopefully people will let us know what they think of our songs as well as the main topic. Did you have the Valentine Day album, or what do you think of the track listing? What would you have added or omitted from that track listing? Justin, how can they do that?
Yeah, shoot us an email, tcbcast@gmail.com, or we are on social media.
And I know you threw up a bunch of Patreon exclusive stuff. People if they want to hear that stuff, how can they do that?
You can sign up over at patreon.com/TCBcast. I think we've mentioned in the last couple episodes that we had, let's see, you and I did a jukebox episode, Gurdip and I, on Chuck Berry. Berry is on Top. Darren Evans and I did one on the Buddy Holly story, volumes 1 and 2. And Olivia and I did one on the 3rd episode of Sun Records. And February is just getting started. We have more on the way. At some point, pretty sure TCBcast After Dark is we're not going to have an arc this year, not a multi-episode thing, but we're going to have some one-off episodes throughout the year, probably for TCBcast After Dark, and we got a lot of other stuff on the way that's going to be a lot of fun. So
awesome, Beck. Thanks again for jumping on. It's always a pleasure. I need to be on more episodes with you. It's weird. We're as we said, we haven't been on just us three, or even us two, for a while.
Well, that's been deliberate, Gurdip.
Oh, okay, there. I didn't know that.
No, I'm kidding.
You deliberately told Justin, if he's on, I don't want to be on.
No, Justin can vouch for this. I messaged Justin and I said, I'm really looking forward to being on with Gurdip because it's been too long.
And I said, if she's on, I don't want to be on. Which accounts for the reason why we hardly ever on together.
Little do the listeners know I paid you both off.
I know. The first episode actually made money. But anyway, Beck, until next time, it's a hot time in Florida.
It's a rainy night in Georgia.
You've been listening to the TCBcast, an unofficial Elvis fan podcast. Justin Gosman and Gurdip Ladar have left the building.
Someone must have stomped on his head with those blue suede shoes.
Thank you and good night.